Have you ever wondered if the great civilizations of the Aztecs, Mayas, and Incas were more than just isolated indigenous peoples, possibly connected to ancient giants mentioned in the Old Testament? The search for the origins of these powerful civilizations is a fascinating mystery that has captivated historians, archaeologists, and theologians for centuries. The Aztecs, Mayas, and Incas were among the most advanced and influential cultures in pre-Columbian America, each with distinct languages, traditions, and monumental achievements in architecture, astronomy, and art. Despite their differences, some researchers and biblical scholars propose a striking theory: that these peoples might be descendants of the Nephilim, the giants mentioned in ancient biblical texts, or influenced by ancient races linked to those giants. In this video, we will explore this hypothesis respectfully and thoughtfully, examining archaeological findings, genetic research, and biblical narratives to understand possible connections between the Old Testament giants and these pre-Columbian civilizations. We will look at the legends and oral histories from indigenous peoples themselves and investigate the interpretations from both secular and religious viewpoints. The Aztecs, Maya, and Inca societies were not just simple tribal groups. They developed complex societies with sophisticated calendars, monumental architecture like pyramids and temples, and rich mythologies. Their oral histories sometimes mention beings of extraordinary size and power, which some interpret as echoes of giant ancestors. But how do these stories intersect with the ancient texts of the Old Testament? Is there historical or scientific evidence supporting these connections? Or are they simply myth and legend? Before we dive deeper, please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want more fascinating explorations of history, faith, and ancient mysteries. Your support helps us bring more respectful and enlightening content to you. Now, let's journey back in time to examine the origins of the Aztecs, Mayas, and Incas, and see how they might relate to the ancient giants. The Bible references giants in several places, notably in Genesis 6:4, describing the Nephilim as the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men, a mysterious lineage often interpreted as beings of great size and power who once walked the earth. Some traditions associate these giants with ancient civilizations worldwide, hinting that their descendants may have influenced various cultures. Could the stories of the Aztecs, Mayas, and Incas contain remnants of this lineage? Modern archaeology shows us that these civilizations emerged independently in the Americas, but intriguing similarities in myths about giants, extraordinary beings, and divine ancestors suggest a more complex story. The ancient texts of the Old Testament, when read alongside Mesoamerican and Andean oral histories, hint at possible shared memories or encounters with beings unlike ordinary humans. The Aztecs, flourishing in the Valley of Mexico, built magnificent cities like Tenochtitlan and had a pantheon rich with gods often described as giants or colossal beings. The Maya, occupying regions of southern Mexico, Guatemala, and Belize, developed an advanced calendar and writing system, alongside stories of divine beings who shaped their world. The Inca, dominating the Andean region of South America, claimed descent from Inti, the sun god, and maintained myths about powerful ancestors who were larger than life. In the coming parts, we will explore each civilization in detail, examining their origins, myths, archaeological evidence, and how these might connect to the biblical giants. We will also review genetic studies that reveal ancient human migrations and possible intermingling with unknown lineages. Throughout this exploration, we will maintain respect for the cultures involved, recognizing the profound legacies they left behind and the importance of their traditions. Join the conversation by commenting below your thoughts or any questions you have as we uncover these mysteries together. The Aztec civilization stands as one of the most remarkable in the Americas, known for its grand cities, advanced engineering, and rich mythology. Centered in what is now central Mexico, the Aztecs built Tenochtitlan, an island city on Lake Texcoco, which became one of the largest urban centers in the world before European contact. But beyond their impressive architecture and political power, the Aztecs left behind stories that hint at origins entwined with giants and divine beings, some of which have been linked by researchers to the Nephilim of the Old Testament. Aztec legends speak of the Quinametzin, a race of giants who once inhabited the earth before the current age of humans. According to their mythic history, these giants were powerful beings who built enormous structures and shaped the land itself. They were said to have lived during the previous suns, or ages of the world, before being destroyed by cataclysms. The giant Quinametzin were believed to be direct ancestors to humanity, or at least key predecessors. Their stories passed down through generations as warnings and tales of lost glory. This concept of giants closely mirrors the biblical Nephilim mentioned in Genesis 6, described as the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men, giants who were mighty men of renown. Some scholars suggest that the Quinametzin legends may preserve a distant memory of encounters with these ancient beings, or that both traditions emerged from a shared ancient mythos about powerful giants shaping early human history. Archaeological evidence supports the existence of massive constructions attributed to the Aztecs and earlier Mesoamerican civilizations, like enormous pyramids and terraces, which in legends are often credited to these giants. While modern science explains these feats through human ingenuity and labor, the legends symbolize awe and reverence for these monumental achievements. Additionally, some Aztec codices and pictorial manuscripts depict figures with exaggerated size or supernatural qualities, possibly illustrating these legendary giants or divine ancestors. The reverence toward these beings is clear, and the myths often depict them as teachers, warriors, or creators who shaped the cosmos and the human world. From a biblical perspective, some theorists propose that after the fall of the giants or Nephilim, their descendants or remnants migrated across the world, influencing many early civilizations, including those in the Americas. While this theory remains speculative, it opens the door to examining indigenous oral traditions and scriptures side by side, searching for parallels that hint at a more interconnected ancient world. Modern genetic research on the Aztec people reveals a complex ancestry rooted primarily in indigenous Mesoamerican populations, but also shows traces of migration patterns consistent with multiple waves of human movement into the Americas. Although no conclusive genetic evidence links the Aztecs to the biblical giants, the gaps and mysteries in ancient history allow room for continued exploration. The Aztec worldview was deeply spiritual, with gods often described as immense and powerful beings. Huitzilopochtli, the sun and war god, was considered a dominant force, larger than life, guiding and protecting the people. This veneration of powerful beings ties into the broader cultural context in which myths of giants held meaning as metaphors for strength, divinity, and the origins of the cosmos. When considering the Aztec civilization in the context of biblical giants, it is important to respect their rich cultural identity and recognize that their myths, while sharing intriguing similarities with Old Testament stories, represent a unique worldview shaped by their environment and history. In summary, the Aztec legends of the Quinametzin giants resonate with biblical narratives of Nephilim, inviting curiosity about possible shared ancient memories or archetypes. Their monumental achievements and rich mythology reflect a civilization that honored mighty ancestors and divine forces, whether these were literal giants or symbolic figures embodying power and creation. In the next part, we will delve into the Maya civilization, examining their complex history, myths of giant beings, and potential links to the Old Testament giants, continuing our respectful and thorough exploration of these fascinating cultures. The Maya civilization, known for its remarkable advancements in mathematics, astronomy, and writing, flourished across southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. The legacy of the Maya is one of deep spirituality and rich mythology, woven with stories of gods, ancestors, and beings of immense power. Among these tales are references to giants, or supernatural beings who played critical roles in shaping the world and the Maya people themselves. Maya mythology speaks of the hero twins and ancestral gods who brought order to the universe, often described with extraordinary attributes or enormous stature. Some legends tell of the Bacab, four giant deities who held up the sky at the four cardinal points, essentially serving as pillars of the cosmos. These figures were sometimes depicted as enormous and powerful, essential to maintaining balance and life. Additionally, the Popol Vuh, the sacred Maya text, recounts the creation of humans after several attempts involving different materials, including mud and wood, before finally succeeding with maize, the sacred corn. Within these stories are hints of divine intervention and beings larger than men, possibly echoing memories of giants or celestial ancestors. Some researchers propose that these giants in Maya mythology could be connected conceptually or historically to the Nephilim mentioned in the Old Testament. The Nephilim were described as giants and mighty beings before the Great Flood, and the Maya myths of giant deities and ancient powerful ancestors may be symbolic reflections of similar ancient themes about the origins of humanity and divine beings. Archaeological sites such as Tikal, Palenque, and Copan showcase massive pyramids and temples that the Maya built with remarkable precision. Like the Aztecs' giant builders, Maya legends sometimes credit such enormous constructions to the work of giants or divine beings, underscoring the reverence they had for their ancestors and gods. The idea of giants in Maya culture can also be viewed as a metaphor for spiritual strength and cosmic power, rather than literal giants. These mythic figures personify natural forces and the structure of the universe, integrating religious belief with the physical world. From a genetic and anthropological perspective, the Maya people are descendants of indigenous populations who have inhabited Mesoamerica for thousands of years. While no scientific evidence currently links them to biblical giants, the parallels in mythologies invite open-minded consideration of how ancient stories might share common motifs across cultures. The Mayas' cosmology was intricate, blending cycles of time, astronomy, and ritual with a spiritual understanding of creation and destruction. This worldview supports the idea of giant cosmic beings or pillars sustaining the heavens, which can be loosely compared to biblical narratives of giants who once inhabited the earth. Respecting the Maya culture means recognizing the deep symbolic and spiritual meanings behind their myths, without necessarily imposing external interpretations. However, exploring similarities with the Old Testament giants enriches our understanding of humanity's quest to explain origins through stories of extraordinary beings. In conclusion, the Maya civilization's stories of giant deities, cosmic pillars, and divine ancestors offer fascinating parallels to the biblical Nephilim. These connections, whether literal or metaphorical, highlight a shared human fascination with beings of immense power shaping the world and humanity's place within it. Next, we will explore the Inca civilization of South America, their myths of giants and divine origins, and how they might relate to the giants mentioned in the Old Testament, continuing our respectful journey through ancient mysteries. The Inca Empire, the largest empire in pre-Columbian America, stretched across the Andes Mountains covering present-day Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina. Renowned for their architectural marvels like Machu Picchu, advanced agricultural techniques, and sophisticated road systems, the Incas built a civilization that has fascinated historians and archaeologists worldwide. Integral to their identity were myths and legends that included beings of great size and divine origin, which some interpret as echoes of the giants mentioned in the Old Testament. In Inca mythology, the world was created by powerful gods, among whom Viracocha stands as the supreme creator deity. Legends say Viracocha emerged from Lake Titicaca, bringing forth light and order to the world. In some versions of the myth, Viracocha and other early beings were giants, towering over ordinary humans, and the first to shape the land and civilization. These giant beings were seen as both creators and teachers, establishing the foundations of Inca society and spirituality. Another prominent figure is Manco Capac, considered the first Inca ruler and son of the sun god Inti. Stories describe him and his siblings as larger-than-life beings sent to civilize humanity, introducing agriculture, laws, and social order. The larger-than-life status of these ancestors in Inca lore parallels the biblical accounts of the Nephilim as mighty men who preceded the current human age. The Inca themselves believed that their empire was a divine gift, connected to celestial powers and ancient lineages. Their myths often emphasize a sacred bloodline descending from gods and giants, reinforcing their right to rule and the sacredness of their civilization. Archaeological discoveries in the Andes reveal sophisticated construction methods and monumental structures attributed to the Incas and their predecessors. Indigenous oral traditions sometimes credit these feats to giant ancestors or supernatural beings, highlighting the reverence for such figures in their culture. From a biblical perspective, the Nephilim were described as giants who lived before the flood, a race of beings with great strength and influence. Some theories suggest that descendants or memories of these beings could have traveled and influenced civilizations far from the Near East, including those of the Americas. While this remains speculative and not supported by direct evidence, it invites thoughtful exploration of ancient connections and shared human stories. Genetic studies show the Incas descend largely from indigenous Andean populations, with no conclusive link to any otherworldly lineage. However, the mysteries in early human migration and the blending of myth and history leave room for wonder and further inquiry. Inca cosmology was deeply connected to nature and celestial bodies, believing the sun, moon, and stars were powerful deities shaping human destiny. The giants in their legends are thus seen as cosmic intermediaries bridging heaven and earth. Much like the Nephilim are thought to be hybrid beings between divine and human realms. Respect for the Inca culture means honoring their myths as profound spiritual expressions of identity, history, and worldview. Exploring possible ties to biblical giants should be done carefully, recognizing the unique context and significance of their stories. In conclusion, the Inca myths of giants and divine ancestors parallel biblical narratives in intriguing ways. Whether these similarities are coincidences, shared archetypes, or hint at deeper ancient connections, they enrich our understanding of how humanity has sought to explain its origins through stories of powerful beings shaping the world. In the next part, we will examine the biblical accounts of giants more closely and analyze how these might relate to the legends and histories of the Aztecs, Mayas, and Incas, drawing the threads of this fascinating mystery together. The Old Testament provides some of the earliest and most compelling references to giants, most notably in the book of Genesis and other ancient scriptures. These giants, called the Nephilim, are described as beings of extraordinary size and power who walked the earth before the Great Flood. Their mysterious origins, often linked to the sons of God, mating with daughters of men, have fueled centuries of debate and interpretation. Understanding these biblical giants is essential to exploring their potential connections with the legends of the Aztecs, Mayas, and Incas. Genesis 6:4 states, The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. This passage suggests that the Nephilim were hybrid beings, part divine, part human, possessing immense strength and stature. Other biblical passages reference giants as well, such as Goliath, the giant warrior defeated by David, and the Rephaim, another group of giant beings. Some biblical scholars interpret the Nephilim as fallen angels or their descendants, while others view them as a race of ancient giants who exerted great influence over early human civilization. Regardless of interpretation, these giants are portrayed as powerful figures whose presence impacted the spiritual and physical realms. When considering the civilizations of the Aztecs, Mayas, and Incas, intriguing parallels emerge. Each culture's myths include stories of giants or colossal ancestors who built massive structures, taught civilization, or shaped the cosmos. These narratives suggest a shared human fascination with beings of great power and size, whether literal or symbolic. Some researchers theorize that memories of the Nephilim or similar beings could have spread across the ancient world, influencing myths and legends far beyond the Near East. The idea that the Aztecs, Mayas, and Incas were descendants or influenced by such giants is speculative, but offers a framework for exploring the common themes of divine ancestry and monumental achievements. Archaeological evidence does not confirm the existence of literal giants, but the monumental scale of structures built by these civilizations often inspired legends attributing their construction to giant beings. These myths serve as metaphors for strength, endurance, and divine favor, reinforcing cultural identity and continuity. Genetic and anthropological studies show the populations of the Americas descended from ancient migrations across the Bering Strait and developed independently. However, gaps remain in the historical record, and oral traditions preserve stories that might hold kernels of truth about early human history and encounters with extraordinary beings. Exploring biblical giants alongside the myths of the Aztecs, Mayas, and Incas requires a respectful balance of faith, science, and cultural understanding. While definitive proof of direct connections is lacking, the thematic overlaps enrich the tapestry of human history and spirituality. In conclusion, the biblical giants, the Nephilim, embody ancient mysteries about humanity's origins and the interplay between divine and mortal realms. Their stories echo in the legends of the great American civilizations, inviting us to reflect on how different cultures attempt to explain the awe-inspiring feats of their ancestors and the cosmos itself. In the next part, we will delve into genetic and archaeological perspectives to examine what science reveals about these ancient peoples, and whether any evidence supports the idea of giant ancestors or divine lineage. Modern science offers powerful tools to investigate the origins and histories of ancient peoples, including the Aztecs, Mayas, and Incas. Through genetics, archaeology, and anthropology, researchers have mapped human migrations, studied cultural developments, and examined ancient remains. These disciplines provide invaluable insights into how these civilizations formed and evolved, and they also help address questions about legends of giants or divine ancestry. Genetic studies show that the indigenous peoples of the Americas primarily descend from populations that migrated from Siberia and East Asia across the Bering Land Bridge during the last Ice Age, approximately 15,000 to 20,000 years ago. These early migrants gradually spread throughout North and South America, giving rise to diverse cultures including the Aztecs, Mayas, and Incas. Genomic research reveals complex patterns of genetic diversity within these groups, reflecting centuries of adaptation, intermixing, and isolation. However, no credible genetic evidence supports the existence of a distinct giant lineage or hybrid descendants of otherworldly beings in these populations. The DNA of ancient human remains corresponds closely with that of modern indigenous peoples, showing continuity rather than abrupt or unexplained anomalies. Archaeologically, the monumental constructions of these civilizations often spark speculation about the need for giants or supernatural beings to explain their scale. Yet, excavations and studies demonstrate that these feats were achieved through human ingenuity, sophisticated engineering, and organized labor. The pyramids, temples, roads, and terraces were built by skilled artisans using tools and techniques passed down through generations. Despite this, oral histories and myths mentioning giants or divine ancestors remain vital cultural elements. These stories reflect how these societies understood their world and origins. They symbolize strength, sacredness, and the connection between humanity and the cosmos. They should be appreciated not as literal history, but as meaningful narratives shaping cultural identity. The question arises, why do legends of giants appear in so many disparate cultures around the world, including those of the Aztecs, Mayas, Incas, and the biblical Old Testament? Some anthropologists propose that these shared motifs stem from common archetypes in human storytelling, expressing awe at natural wonders, human creativity, and the mystery of origins. Others suggest that these stories might preserve faint echoes of encounters with ancient human species or exceptionally tall individuals whose memory was amplified over time. While intriguing, such ideas remain speculative and are not supported by mainstream scientific consensus. Additionally, the possibility that stories of giants emerged as metaphors for cultural heroes or gods cannot be overlooked. Giants in myths often embody ideals of power, protection, and divine favor, roles crucial to maintaining social cohesion and spiritual belief. In summary, scientific evidence paints a picture of the Aztecs, Mayas, and Incas as remarkable human civilizations arising from ancient migrations and sustained through ingenuity and cultural richness. The myths of giants and divine ancestors enrich their histories symbolically rather than literally. As we continue this exploration, the balance between faith, science, and respect for ancient traditions remains central. Understanding how different cultures use myth to explain the unexplainable helps us appreciate the diversity and commonality of the human experience. In the next part, we will explore some of the most fascinating giant-related archaeological discoveries and legends across the Americas and the Old World, and discuss how they influence popular interpretations of these ancient mysteries. Throughout history, numerous archaeological discoveries and legends have fueled fascination with giants, both in the Americas and across the Old World. These stories often blend fact, folklore, and interpretation, shaping popular ideas about ancient civilizations and their possible connections to legendary giant beings. In the Americas, various indigenous oral traditions tell of enormous beings who once roamed the lands, sometimes described as builders of great monuments or as powerful warriors. For example, some Native American tribes recount tales of stone giants or sky giants linked to the construction of massive earthworks and mounds. While no verified skeletal remains of giants have been found that meet the exaggerated sizes described in legends, these stories persist as important cultural heritage. In Mesoamerica, the myths of the Aztecs and Mayas about the Cuaynametzin and Bacab giants resonate with similar legends worldwide, reflecting a human tendency to mythologize monumental achievements. Such beings are often seen as divine or semi-divine ancestors, emphasizing the sacred nature of their culture and history. Globally, tales of giants appear in ancient texts and folklore, from the Nephilim in the Bible to the Titans in Greek mythology, the Jotun in Norse sagas, and the Cyclopes of classical legend. These figures often represent primal forces of nature, chaos, or creation, embodying the struggles between order and disorder, divine and mortal. Archaeological finds occasionally stir speculation about giants, especially when unusually large skeletal remains or bones are discovered. However, many such findings have been explained by paleontology, e.g., large prehistoric animals, misidentification, or even hoaxes. Scientific rigor requires careful validation before accepting claims of ancient human giants. In the context of the Aztecs, Mayas, and Incas, monumental architecture such as pyramids, terraces, and road networks sometimes appears too large to be human-made to casual observers, encouraging stories of giants as builders. Yet extensive archaeological research reveals these were the products of complex social organization and human skill. The persistence of giant legends across cultures highlights universal themes: reverence for ancestors, explanation of the unknown, and the human imagination's role in constructing history. These stories serve as cultural touchstones, inspiring art, literature, and spiritual belief. In modern times, interest in giants often intersects with alternative history, pseudoscience, and popular media, which sometimes blur lines between fact and fiction. While such narratives captivate the imagination, critical thinking and respect for indigenous knowledge remain essential. By understanding the origins and meanings behind giant legends, we gain insight into human culture's shared heritage and the diverse ways societies interpret their past. As we move forward, our next section will examine the spiritual and symbolic meanings of giants in these ancient civilizations and biblical tradition, exploring what giants represent beyond physical stature. Giants have fascinated humanity not only as physical beings but also as powerful symbols in spiritual and cultural narratives. Across the Aztec, Maya, Inca civilizations, and biblical texts, giants often represent more than mere size. They embody strength, divine authority, cosmic balance, and the mysteries of existence. Understanding these symbolic roles deepens our appreciation of how ancient peoples made sense of their world. In Aztec mythology, giants such as the Quina Metzin were not only literal ancestors, but also metaphors for the immense forces that shaped creation. Their colossal stature reflected the overwhelming power needed to build the world and civilize humanity. These beings stood between gods and men, embodying the transition from chaos to order, wilderness to culture. Revered and feared, they symbolized the foundations upon which the Aztec Empire rose. Similarly, Maya giants like the Bacab were cosmic pillars sustaining the sky and earth, representing stability and the sacred order of the universe. Their role extended beyond the physical to the metaphysical, maintaining balance across time and space. The hero twins' struggles against monstrous beings in the Popol Vuh highlight themes of transformation, renewal, and the triumph of civilization over primal chaos, often linked with giant or monstrous adversaries. In Inca tradition, giants and divine ancestors like Viracocha and Manco Capac signify the birth of culture and morality. Their immense size expresses their elevated status as divine intermediaries, guiding humanity from darkness into light. Giants personify wisdom, creation, and the sacred bloodline connecting rulers to the gods. Their stories emphasize the sanctity of leadership and the interconnectedness of the natural and spiritual worlds. Biblical giants, such as the Nephilim and Rephaim, carry complex symbolic meanings as well. They represent a mingling of divine and human realms, sometimes seen as fallen or corrupted beings, embodying both greatness and danger. Their presence before the flood symbolizes a lost era of profound power and spiritual conflict. Goliath's story, by contrast, frames the giant as an obstacle to faith and divine justice, highlighting human courage, overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds. Across these traditions, Giants symbolize thresholds between human and divine, chaos and order, past and present. Their stories serve as moral lessons, cosmological explanations, and cultural foundations. They remind us of humanity's quest to understand our origins and place within a vast and mysterious universe. Recognizing giants as symbolic figures rather than literal beings allows us to appreciate the rich layers of meaning embedded in ancient myths. These narratives continue to inspire reflection on strength, humility, and the enduring power of stories to shape identity and belief. In our next section, we will consider how these ancient narratives of giants influence modern perspectives and why they continue to captivate the imagination today. As we conclude this journey through the myths, histories, and mysteries surrounding the Aztecs, Mayas, Incas, and the biblical giants, it becomes clear that these stories are more than just ancient curiosities. They represent humanity's enduring effort to comprehend origins, power, and the divine. The legends of giants, the Nephilim in the Old Testament and the colossal ancestors in Mesoamerican and Andean cultures, reflect a shared human fascination with beings that transcend ordinary existence. Whether understood as literal ancestors, symbolic figures, or mythic archetypes, giants occupy a crucial space in the collective imagination, connecting past and present, earth and sky. Scientific inquiry shows us the remarkable achievements of these civilizations as products of human creativity, resilience, and cultural richness. Yet, the myths of giants preserve a spiritual dimension that science alone cannot fully explain. They remind us that history is not only facts and dates, but also the stories we tell to make sense of our place in the universe. Today, these ancient narratives inspire art, literature, film, and scholarship. They invite dialogue between faith and reason, indigenous knowledge and modern science, myth and history. Respectful exploration of these themes enriches our understanding of cultural heritage and shared human experience. If this video has sparked your curiosity or offered new perspectives, please like, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps continue respectful, thoughtful conversations about history, faith, and mystery. Thank you for joining this exploration of the Aztecs, Mayas, Incas, and their possible connections to the giants of the Old Testament. May these stories inspire you to seek knowledge, honor ancient wisdom, and appreciate the diverse tapestries of human history. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to check out another interesting video.